Hello and welcome to my review of the Civilization 6 September 2019 update. Many of you have probably seen already today if you're as big a fan as me. The update, a new update just was announced today, no release date as of yet, as per usual. I'm super excited to see like a new patch at this point. It just keeps hinting at the fact that they're going to continue to work on expansion of Civ 6, which I personally really prefer over them working on Civ 7. First of all, like if they started working on a Civ 7, it's going to take a few years. So I love where Civ 6 is at, and I love that they're just working on balancing it and polishing it over and over again. I'm shocked that, honestly, I'm shocked that they have released another update so close to the last one. I feel like the last one just happened, but with that being said, let's see what they have to say.
Hello, Civ fans. We're back again with another update for Civilization 6. As always, we want to give a big thank you to everyone for your valuable feedback you continue to provide on all of our social channels and forums. We've packed a ton of new features, balance tweaks, and fixes into the latest update, but that's not even the best part. We're unleashing an exciting new multiplayer game mode that's unlike anything we've done before. We can't wait to tell you more about it.
Alright, so first thing that sadly we got no information on it, but first thing that they hint at is a new multiplayer mode. So they don't mention it anywhere else in this video, unfortunately. I was hoping they did, but my guess is that they're hinting at someone that kind of spans between that gap of a scenario and a full-fledged, Civ game on online speed, assuming. So I'm guessing some kind of game mode in around that 3 to 4 hour range. My hope for it is that it really changes what multiplayer is about right now. And what multiplayer is about right now is domination. It's all about warfare, pretty much. So I'm really hoping that it does something. I'm not exactly sure what that would be, like maybe a bigger limit to what allows you to declare war or something. But I really wish that it changes up that aspect of it. And so, because it'll get a lot more people into multiplayer if that's the case, because I know a lot of people probably don't want to play multiplayer just because it's annoying to have to worry about fighting all the time. A lot of people just want to play single player so they can sim city and do whatever. Either that, or I hope that they go in the complete opposite direction and just make it all about military. That kind of would be fun too, now wouldn't it? So while we're here on this frame, actually, I want to point out some things that everyone's been talking about today, and that's the typical, whenever they use this set, there's, they use a lot of hints in the background here. So the biggest thing people have been talking about is that mask right above his head and this skull sitting on the desk. Usually whatever's sitting on the desk is one of the bigger hints I find. So what the big thing people have been saying, the mask, people keep pointing to, it's a Venetian mask, so they're thinking Venice Civ, which obviously, if you played Civ 5, you know the meme that is Venice. Honestly, it'd be cool if they added that, that'd be awesome, but I highly doubt that's coming in this patch. To be honest, when has Firaxis ever, released a Civ that's not part of a paid DLC? Whether it's a little $5 one civ in a scenario DLC or whatever it is. Also, there would have to be something screwy for them to make a Venice civ similar to one in Civ 5 work. It barely worked in Civ 5 when tall play was the go-to strategy. I can't imagine how that would work in a wide-based game. But that's a conversation for another time. For the skull, I've heard a lot of people talking about plague mechanics, which people have been talking about that for a while on the subreddit and whatnot, saying that they should add plagues since they added to the Black Death scenario, and then they have the disasters in the normal game. So that'd be super cool to see if they put that in the normal game. That might be something that people would want to toggle on and off, though. So if it is an option, I kind of hope that that's how they do it. As far as the other stuff, you got a little barbarian man above his head. There's a barbarian and there's a ship. I feel like I've seen those exact same things in the background before, so I'm not really inclined to think they mean anything. if anything, I would think they hint that, changes to the barbarian way the barbarians operate, and as they're about to mention, lots and lots of naval changes would be the ship, in my opinion. So let's see what they have to say about that.
But for now, let's go over what else is changing in the game. Based on your feedback, one area we wanted to focus on in this update was making coastal cities stronger. For starters, we looked at our great admirals and added a ton of new bonuses. Here's just a few examples. Francis Drake now instantly creates a privateer with 1 promotion level, and military units get a plus 50% reward for plundering sea trade.
So it looks like what they've done here, or they've reworked most of the admirals. It seems like I don't know if they point out all the ones they reworked in this video, but it's still a lot of them. And so if you remember Francis Drake before, I believe he gave that military units get 50%. I think he also gave some gold, which looks to be gone. But more importantly, creates a free privateer. So that's similar with some of the other great admirals, do the same thing. But this is really cool. I mean, I'm happy to see that the admirals are now useful. I specifically, when I saw this, I really couldn't wait to try and play Victoria's England again. I think as of the last update where she gets all the free ships, she's a lot more fun. And she can spam admirals like nobody's business because of the unique district. So yes, I guess Phoenicia as well, as they're showing here. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Trade routes. Ferdinand Magellan grants 1 free copy of a luxury resource on a tile to your capital city and grants 300 gold.
So that's a nice change as well. I mean, previously he gave, +4 loyalty, which, free loyalty, not super helpful. Only useful in, very specific situations. But, normally you just want to keep him as the admiral to boost your units. But now he's similar to that other early game great merchant. This is a little bit later since he's a Renaissance era admiral, but there's also that merchant that gives the free copy of an amenity. This one also gives 300 gold though, which is the other one does not. So that's nice to see.
Horatio Nelson instantly builds a lighthouse and shipyard on a harbor on top of his already existing 50% flanking bonus to all naval units.
So another cool one here, and I'll just go back a little bit to show you that. Free lighthouse and shipyard. The thing I noticed about this is that I didn't notice when I was doing my notes, but I noticed now it's an atomic era great person. So this is a bit late maybe for that to be super relevant. But it's it's along the lines of like Newton or James Watt, which grant the 2 free buildings basically in their respective district. However, this one doesn't seem to give any actual production or gold or whatever else bonuses to those second tier districts. If this also like added +2 gold for every shipyard or something, along the lines with James Watt or Newton, that'd be super cool. And I think would be fitting, but I guess that's not what we have here. So, it's nice, especially with the changes about to talk about.
Flanking bonus to all naval units. We've also added more bonuses to the buildings coastal cities benefit from. Mausoleum at Halicarnassus now gives +1 science, +1 faith, and +1 culture on all coast tiles for a city. And great.
So this is interesting because Mausoleum of Halicarnassus was already one of the better wonders in the game, specifically for science victory. And the reason for that is the +1 great engineer charge. So, obviously, actually for culture as well, the +1 great engineer charge could be really nice. So it's good to see they did not take that ability away, so this is still going to be a super powerful wonder. The thing they did change is this also used to give it gave a free admiral upon completion, and then also gave +1 charge to all admirals. Now I'm assuming with all the changes they made to admirals, they decided that an extra admiral charge is just way too powerful. Based on some of the other ones they'll show at the end, I think. But still, though, I mean, look at the replacement they put in: +1 science, +1 faith, +1 culture on all coast tiles. So a coast tile it's not the land tiles along the coast. I believe it's the actual water tiles called coast. So those are the ones, the shallow water tiles. Which a shallow water tile in itself is not really a workable tile. This might make it workable. But, I mean, think about it. A coast tile on its own gives 1 food. That's it. With a lighthouse, it gives a gold. With a shipyard, well, actually, they just made a change to the shipyard that they haven't gotten to yet. So it'll get a little bit more there, get a production. And then I believe with the seaport, it gets 2 more gold, so 3 gold total. So, and that's pretty late in the game. So I'm not sure if it's going to make really workable tiles. I guess it'll be good on your sea resources, though. I'm assuming it'll still apply to resources on top of those tiles. So fishing boats, crabs, whales, whatever, or reefs. That'd be great, especially if you're playing the Maori. That would be amazing. Uh, or someone like who else gets bonuses? I guess Norway does. If you got God of the Sea, it'd be nice. If you had Auckland, obviously that'd be super nice. So you could get use out of that, but I'm not super convinced that it's going to make a plain old coast tile workable.
Engineers get an additional charge. Lighthouses give +2 housing if the harbor is adjacent to the city center.
This is a nice boost. The big problem with coastal cities before is obviously the housing. They don't have the housing that a freshwater city has. They only get what +2, so 3 total by default, whereas a non-coastal city has 5 or 6. Can't believe I'm blanking on that. Point is, they have a lot more. I believe it's 5. So there might be a little bit of confusion here because the harbor already does give 1 housing. This is saying gives +2 housing if the harbor is adjacent to the city center. I'm not entirely sure if that means it's replacing the existing ability of just 1 housing, or if it's adding on to it if it's adjacent to the city center. So then if it's adjacent, it's 3 housing. That might be what it means. But regardless, even if it is just +2, it's still extremely powerful, and here's why. If you just settle a coastal city, you'd have 3 housing by default. If you build a granary in that city, you're at 5. If you built a lighthouse previously, you'd only be at 6. And the threshold you really want to hit is 7. 7's the big threshold because that unlocks your 3rd district. And having 3 districts in a city is really ideal. And especially when a coastal city or harbor is pretty much necessary for a coastal city to be worthwhile, even more so now. So, you need that 3rd district. In most cases, that's going to be campus, theater, square, commercial hub, or harbor in this case. Harbor for the coastal cities. So being able to hit that 7 housing without any other, improvements to put in, production to get those 2 buildings, but it's still going to be worthwhile in the long run just to guarantee that 7 housing. So that's a pretty critical change.
Fisheries now provide 0.5 housing.
That's a bit of a minimal ability in my opinion. Not something I use often is those fisheries. If you don't know what they are, they're a unique improvement that you need to get through Liang, having Liang established in the city, and I believe they basically act as a fishing boat, and then a fishing boat that also gets a production if Liang's still in the city. So if you're moving Liang around to get fisheries in multiple cities, you're not getting that. But I mean, it's a nice change, I guess. It's a positive change. It's going to get you a little bit more housing in those coastal cities. But again, I don't tend to take that promotion with Liang very often. So a little less significant than the lighthouse.
Now provide 0.5 housing. Shipyards give +1 production to all unimproved coastal tiles.
This is the other change that I was mentioning when I was talking about the mausoleum, that these raw coastal tiles will be nice. Now, this sounds awesome, +1 production to your coastal tiles, but notice that it says all unimproved coastal tiles. So that means it's not affecting your fishing boats, not affecting your any improvements. So I was going to say reefs, but that's not true. It'll affect reefs, I assume. But it's not going to affect kampungs if you're Indonesia. So that can be a big deal. Also those fisheries that you might want to build now for more housing are not going to be affected either. Those are improvements. So it'll be, I guess, okay with you pair this with the mausoleum. I mean, it's not making the shipyard a weak building. The shipyard still has, I'm assuming, the adjacency production bonus, which is super nice on its own, especially if you're playing someone like Japan or just have high yield and harbors in general and have the policy card in. The other thing that would make this useful, I guess, is if you have Auckland, but again, that's a pretty situational. Same thing with Mausoleum. That's a situational. You can't really rely on that to happen in all your games. So overall, could give you a little bit more production maybe later in the game when those tiles are a little bit more workable, but I don't think it makes them more workable than a land tile.
In the city. And finally, putting a campus on a coastline tile next to a reef gives the campus a major adjacency.
This is a big deal. Um, this is really gonna help out coastal civs because one problem obviously is that you're not gonna have a lot of mountains near the coast in general. I mean that can happen sometimes, but not all the times. Plus, you kind of want to put your uh, districts around maybe your harbor like they are here, like near a bay or whatever, so that you're getting adjacency with the other districts or whatever. This is definitely going to help out naval domination civs, obviously, since science is going to be important for that. Like again, England, I think, is going to benefit a lot. Obviously, all the naval civs, so Norway, England, Indonesia, Dido. I particularly think this actually will be nice for Indonesia. They already have that small minor adjacency just for coastal tiles. It looks like so that'd be a normally that'd be a +2 already. Then +2 for the district. Then +6 for all these reefs. That's a what is that a +9 adjacency campus? That would be insanity in that case. The other one is Australia. Australia obviously it's not necessarily that it's coast, but it's high appeal. But the thing is, coastal tiles get appeal from being next to the coast. I think they get like a minor appeal adjacency. In this case, I believe that probably would be a breathtaking tile, especially with the woods next to it. Um, so imagine that. That's what +3 on top of what's sitting there already. So +10 campus. That's insanity. Like Australia wasn't powerful enough already. um, the only thing I'd say here is I think they might have done this to show this off with the world builder or something because I don't think I've ever run into a situation where I've seen this many reefs close to each other. I think at the most you're going to be building your campus next to one reef, but still, that's a +3 campus versus a +1. It makes a difference, especially when you're coastal. So yeah, it's still an amazing change. It'll be really interesting to see how this changes district placement. The other thing that really that actually grabbed me almost more in this tile, in this screenshot rather, is that why is this tile that they're going to place the campus on generating a culture? I'm a little confused by this. I don't know if it's they look pretty late in the game here based on the fact that they have flood barriers or anything. So I don't know. I don't usually make it too far into the late game, to be honest, before the game's over. So I don't know if this is some late game thing that I just never see or what, or if it's like, if you know what it is, please point it out to me in the comments or something. But I'm thinking that this might be some new feature. I can't think of any city-state bonus, any policy card, any pantheon or religion that's going to get you culture on just a normal grassland hill with nothing on it. So I think this could be a new suzerain bonus. It could be a new pantheon. It could be a religious. I don't know. Looks like something new, something fishy is going on here. Haha, see what I did there.
Bonus. Our previous update added the 7 Seas map and the Small Continents map. We're happy to say that this update will introduce 6 more maps.
Ooh.
The Terra map will include a distant continent populated by city-states, barbarians, and mystery.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, new maps obviously is awesome, and this map type in particular is a pretty popular one. I remember playing this one in Civ 5. Particularly, it reminds me of the New World scenario, and the way he says mystery right there almost makes me think that it's somewhere in between those things. Like the way he says discover new city-states, barbarians, and mystery makes me think that like somehow they incorporated like maybe different goodie hut rewards, maybe like in the scenario, in the New World scenario, I believe you could get treasure that you could bring back to your capital or whatever. That would be honestly really cool if they had something along those lines, even just in a normal game. And this is just gonna be a really fun one in general to you use some of those colonization mechanics that just don't get used most map types. Like well, obviously again England. I'm sorry I keep coming back to England. Even though I don't rank England very highly as a civ, I think they're a lot of fun. But again, like civs or Dido that have like colonization, other continent bonuses might actually make me want to use some of those other other continent cards, like the growth and the production and gold cards or whatever. So this would be a cool one. Might also want you to use I don't know flight and stuff. So it'd be interesting.
Each game will be a race to see who can grab the riches of these new worlds first. Primordial maps are a chaotic mixture of the game's most extreme terrain types. Set your disaster meter on 4 and let us know if you make it out alive.
So this just looks ridiculous. This just sounds like something fun to play with your friends and just see who makes it out alive, like he just said. I mean, come on, look at how many volcanoes are there. It's like they just made it so that every every mountain tile in the game just is a volcano now. It's ridiculous looking. Most thing I'm excited about is, maybe finally a reason to take Earth Goddess. Am I right? I mean, I don't know. This will just be fun.
Mirror maps feature a randomly generated world where the 4 map quadrants are mirrored to provide exactly balanced starts that are ideal for multiplayer.
So this is something I'm extremely excited about. I play some multiplayer with random people, but I usually play with my friends or someone. So this is a cool one because if you've seen maybe one of my other videos or something, you have to restart a lot for people to be happy with their spawns, and then people might not. One of the biggest things that could swing a multiplayer game, honestly, is how good of a start you get off to, which is kind of annoying. It's one of my problems that I have with Civ a little bit is that, there's no like exponential growth to the game where later in the game things matter more. It kind of feels the opposite. Earlier in the game things matter more, and I don't personally think that's the way it necessarily should be. I think that's also the reason, obviously, that a lot of people complain that there's not enough to do in the late game. But this is obviously super cool for multiplayer. I wonder if you can pick different sizes. I mean, this looks like, what, a 4-player map based on this? The other thing I'm concerned about here is it doesn't look like a particularly good map. I mean, look at that tundra and desert. I mean, I assume it's going to be random each time, I hope, but still doesn't look like a great map overall, to be honest. But hopefully, it works in a sense that it'll obviously balance the game and make multiplayer a lot more exciting.
Exactly balanced starts that are ideal for multiplayer. There are 2 spawn options here as well. Standard, which allows players to spawn in different locations in their respective quadrant, and mirrored, which forces all players to spawn in the exact same location in their section of the map.
So this is, I mean, slightly 2 ways, I guess, to modify that map. I would think technically mirrored would be more fair, but at the same, because it's exactly the same. But at the same time, if you're playing a specific civ that has like a spawn bias that you want, like Mali or Russia, you want desert or tundra or whatever, or you probably then I guess want that standard. And I guess it would, based on the way it looks, I'm assuming it would still be fair, but give like a little bit more flavor to the different spawns.
To try these new maps, you can simply double-click any of them from our newly organized map selection UI screen.
So that's a cool little thing. Sorry, let me... I mean, I love UI changes. I mean, this is not exactly a game-affecting change, but, it looks nice. It looks really nice.
Map selection UI screen. We still have a lot to show you, so please keep watching for more details on the upcoming changes. We'll have the full patch notes available when the update goes live. Make sure you stay tuned to the Civilization social channels, where we'll drop more details about the new multiplayer game mode soon. Also, you might have seen that the Rise and Fall expansion is now available for iOS. We wanted to let you know that we...
I had to pause back a little bit, but as usual, they're a bit of a tease. They, just say soon, unfortunately, but that's okay. That's how it's always been. I'm really hoping that they're, obviously they're hopefully announcing more content before it actually comes out. I'm really hoping they do a stream this Thursday, since their pattern is typically a Tuesday announcement followed by a Thursday stream, and they release this video on a Tuesday, so I'm hoping that means they're following that pattern, and there'll be this one this week. If not this week, then next week, I'm hoping. But, it's called the September patch, so it's got to come out by the end of September, so at least within the month.
We and our friends at Aspire are working very hard on getting Gathering Storm to the platform and bringing both expansions to the Switch by the end of the year. We appreciate your patience and hope to have more details on this soon.
Again, there's that soon. It sucks. It always, I mean, there's nothing they can do, I'm sure, but I'm always someone who wants a rigid date, or else I just drive myself crazy looking every day for new content. I just want to set it in my calendar and be like, okay, that's the day I'll worry about it. But still, though, by the end of the year, that's very nice. It's been a very, very long time for them to get those. I have the iOS version, which I love to use just, on the go when I can't really take my laptop on planes or whatever. Uh, Currently, I don't have. I know Rise and Fall came out a few weeks ago, but I haven't put it on there yet. I'm hopefully like when they release Gathering Storm or around, because I'm assuming since it's the end of the year, it'll be around Christmas and there'll be some kind of sale. So try to do that because last year they had all the little small leader DLCs were for free around Christmas time. So hopefully they do something similar. I mean, probably not free with the full expansions, but half off or something would be awesome. So look out for that.
Now, please enjoy the rest of the video. You are the best fans in gaming.
Alright, so the rest of this here, no more commentary, but there's, some small tweaks and stuff that we'll look at. So first off, you got some updated improvements. So the first one, +1 gold on the camps is pretty awesome. They did try to improve those camps last patch. They added, with certain techs and civics, I think added an extra food and production than they normally get, but those still kind of kick in fairly late. So early in the game, camps are just weak tiles to work, to be honest. Unless you have a ton of them and you take that camps pantheon, then they're awesome. But early in the game, pretty weak improvement. So this will make them. I mean, it'll help for those like ivory and furs, that you can't harvest anyway. So it's a nice boost to those. Deer still might not really be worthwhile in the very, very early game. I think that's still probably going to be more worthwhile to chop out for wonders or settlers or something. But still a nice change. The next thing is +1 production from fishing boats with colonialism. So that's pretty great. It's colonialism is pretty mid-game as far as the civics go, mid to late maybe. So it'll be a while until you get this, but hopefully that means most of your fishing boats are already up by now, and so you'll get the benefit from it right away, which is nice. It kind of luckily they did this because when we were talking about the shipyard, the +1 production didn't apply to improvements, so at least this is a way that you're getting more production from those improvements, so it's going to make those fishing resources more workable. I think a normal fish just tile with a workboat doesn't give any production by itself. This one here is on a reef, so I guess it would. Reefs give a production. I think whales already by default give a production, so that would be 2, I guess. So still not a ton, but a tile that you can make use of. Then the next thing is the +1 gold of feudalism, +1 food for plantations of feudalism. This is one of the better ones here, I think. I mean, the production from fishing boats are both nice, but this one's really nice. First of all, feudalism obviously is a lot earlier in the game. Whoops. Feudalism's a lot earlier in the game, obviously, than colonialism. It's what first level of medieval civics, so fairly early. But this is super, super nice because plantations are a necessary improvement. I mean, a lot of, like cotton, as it's shown there, a lot of the luxuries are plantation luxuries. Cocoa, coffee, tea, cotton, olives, silk, incense. There's so many that need plantations. And to be honest, the plantation yields just aren't worth it. I mean, it gives 2 gold, I believe. So it's just not super worth it. If you have a lot of them, then you got oral tradition. You at least got the culture on it a little bit better. But, couple this now with another food fairly early in the game, you're getting a decent amount of yield out of those plantations. So that's super nice. And there's still improvements to plantations later. I forget what it comes with, but there's definitely a mid-game tech, I believe. I think it's actually scientific theory, maybe. It's the one that has Oxford on it, I believe, gives another food to plantation, so this will make them definitely more workable, which is nice. Alright, so now we have more specifics of the admiral changes. They've changed a lot of the admirals. So the first one here, the Themistocles, instantly creates a quadrium unit. That is what they already did, but then added is +20% production towards naval range units. That is awesome because that applies to frigates. And naval units in general cost a lot of production to build. So you grab this, +20%, and then you couple that with the 100% towards naval cards that you get at exploration, press gangs, it's called. And that's a lot of production you can get just pumping out some frigates, especially if you have Venetian arsenal. Then you're going to be pumping out double frigates. So that's definitely a nice one to have. very early one to get. So you'll have to rush to that one. If England's in your game, then good luck. Leif Erikson next. Leif Erikson was definitely the most, I would say, definitely the most worthless of the admirals. Because before, he only gave the all naval units can move over ocean tiles. Now, that's just what cartography does. He's medieval era. Typically, especially if you're going for a naval game, you're rushing that top part of the tech tree to get to that tech anyway. So by the time you're unlocking Leif Erikson, you probably already have the ability to go over ocean tiles already. At least I found that I always had that. But now +1 sight for all naval units, that's pretty good, honestly. Especially if you can also get the Great Lighthouse and have 2 sight for all your naval units. You know, you're going to be able to end the movement. You're going to be able to outboat anybody, catch them and destroy them. Now the next one I think is a totally new one. I don't remember this name from before. Rajendra Kola, probably not saying that right, but +3 combat strength for all naval units. Now +3 might not sound like a lot, but holy crap, is that going to be? That could be a game changer for, you know, if naval combat is more of a thing now. That's the game changer. If you're on equal footing, but you have that, that's an advantage. That's the same as having the intel bonus as France. It's one of the things that makes France a lot better since I guess it was Rising Fall that they added that. Yeah, and this is part of the reason. The Themistocles and Rajendra here, I think, are probably the biggest reasons I feel like that they had to take away the double admiral charges from Mausoleum. Because imagine if you got both of these double charged, 40% production towards your naval units, which have 6 extra combat strength. That's insanity. That would have been hilarious. I kind of bummed that you can't do that. That would have been a lot of fun to mess around with. So the last one here, Zheng He, that was already in the game, and I believe they completely reworked this one. I think it used to give an envoy and 2 envoys and some gold, I believe. Something like that. Envoy gold, I think. Which, you know, 2 envoys, I guess, is nice if you're doing diplomacy, but diplomacy is not great. So he was not a great admiral to begin with. But now, the free trade route, on obviously trade route capacity to maintain that, and 2 gold to both cities for foreign trade routes, so just extra gold for those trade routes. That's super nice. I mean, basically, he's the equivalent. He's actually even better than Marco Polo. Which I find ironic since Marco Polo is a game you play in the water. But yeah, he's just a better, slightly better Marco Polo because of that +2 gold. Alright, more Great Admirals. Now these are some later game Great Admirals. The first one is not great in my opinion. I mean, I believe before there was one that gave, it was similar, I think, where it gave some gold and I think 50% rewards from siege plundering, and now it's 60%. But this is an industrial era Great Admiral, and to be honest, I can't really think of any times where maybe it's just because I don't play a lot of naval games, because naval before now was not important at all, but I've never really plundered naval trade routes, to be honest. But I mean, with the changes, I mean, this could make naval trade routes more prevalent and naval stuff in general more prevalent, so maybe you'll get some more out of that. Next one we have is Nimitz. Instantly creates a submarine unit, grants 1 oil, and +20% production towards a naval raider. So this one used to just give the +20% production towards the naval raider. That's what it did already, which is nice. I mean, it's similar to the ranged one, but this is an atomic era versus a classical era was the other one. So this is just so late in the game, honestly, to be super relevant. I mean, I don't tend to build a lot of submarines in my game. The game's pretty much almost over at that point. And again, I don't do naval combat, but you know, this might be a little bit more relevant now. One thing to note that I've used, I tested this in a recent game actually, not on stream or anything, but just one of my games, where I got the guy with, I had Mausoleum, so I had the 2 charges, and had it was either the ironclad one or the one that grants a battleship or whatever, and it grants a strategic resource that goes along with that unit, so that obviously it doesn't just make you start hemorrhaging that strategic unit or resource if you're already using all of yours. So a fun thing to do if you really don't want the naval unit, you can in fact delete the unit and it keeps +1 strategic resource. So especially with the ironclad and the battleship that need coal, you know, that's just a little bit of extra coal if you really need it. And I find that coal power plants are the ones that are used the most. So that's a really nice one. That's a really nice thing if you don't care for the naval unit. You can just get little bit extra strategic resource. I don't know if that's if that's an intentional feature or not, if that was by mistake. Um, yeah, just doomed us by pointing that out. But that's just a nice little thing if you need that extra coal or oil or whatever, if you want it for something else. So last one here, Grace Hopper, so much better than before. They used to give 1 eureka of an atomic or information era tech. I mean, that's so underwhelming. I mean, who cares? That's. I would say they're the worst one if Leif Erikson wasn't the worst one already. But now he's basically a mini Oxford, which also grants 2 free techs, because these are 2 full techs, not Eurekas. And it's any era. It's whatever basically the next grayed out one that you can unlock. Now, same thing with Oxford. That means it could possibly, unlock the tech that you're gonna research next turn anyway. That happens a lot with Oxford. Same thing with was it Bolshevik with the civics. I mean, that just tends to happen. The game seems to like to intentionally screw you on those things a lot. But still, though, I mean, that's amazing for science victory, because one of the biggest things that slows down your science game is not the production into the projects, but the research, getting those like last 2 future era techs that are necessary for the science. And as you can see here, actually, if I keep playing, look at that. They research smart materials with them. That's the tech that launches the last project in the game. I mean, that's amazing that you can just get that for free. So that, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it might only shave off, I don't know, 8 turns off a standard speed game, but, still relevant. It's pretty good. So now we got some rock band changes. Now, rock band's obviously very powerful, but very late game. The first one here is the indie band. This one people complain about so much on the subreddit. It was 50 loyalty that it used to reduce, and now it's 40. The reason being, obviously, that if you had 2 of these, you could 50 and 50 go to negative 100 in a single turn and flip a city in a single turn with 2 of these. Especially since there's now the policy where you can pick the promotions, you can intentionally do this late game, which is super annoying. So now that I guess you could technically still do the same thing with 3 of them, but finding 3 districts or wonders or whatever in the same city that you could try and flip, I guess, is a little bit harder. And even if you do it with 2 now, it would still take 2 turns. And that doesn't seem like a lot, maybe, but like 2 turns can make the difference, because 2 turns, if you see that you didn't see them coming the first turn, and all of a sudden, crap, your city's flipping. It gives you a chance to like declare war to get them out of your territory, or slot in that future era civic policy card that kicks rock bands out of your territory if you need to do that. So it could, that 1 extra turn might save your city. The next one here is album cover art. So that one was probably the best promotion before. It was just kind of the only worthwhile one, because Wonders already, I'm not entirely sure how the rock band tourism works, but Wonders already seem to give more accumulated tourism than some of the like theater squares or campuses or whatever. So it's appropriate, obviously, that they lowered it to 1. I'm sure it's still a good promotion to take, since you're, if it's one of your 3 random ones. So that's nice. The last one here is music festivals, which they boosted a little bit. It used to just be national parks. Now it's also natural wonders. That's great, because I've never taken this one, because I don't know if I've ever seen the AI build a national park, to be honest. I can't think of a time. So at least now, natural wonders in another player's territory are fairly common. So that's something you can pick. All right, next 3. So now Popstar, that just generates gold. It was 50, now it's 25. I mean, yeah, how much tourism you get? You get a couple thousand, so 50%, you might be getting like 5,000 gold out of that, which was nice. But I didn't necessarily think it was overpowered, because it's not like it's helping you get more tourism at all. I mean, yeah, you can maybe buy some late game buildings or whatever, but it's not really directly helping your tourism victory, so I didn't think it was too powerful. But whatever, 25 to 50. The next one, Space Rock. This is great. This is awesome. So the 500 tourism from campuses, and then universities increase it to 1,000. So, I mean, by the time you're using rock bands, it's pretty late in the game. Unless you're playing on a really low difficulty and the AI is really far behind you, the AI is probably going to have universities in their campuses, I hope, unless they're just that bad, which sometimes they are. But in all likelihood, they're gonna have universities. So you can get a good amount of extra tourism out of those. Similarly, surf band used to only apply to seaside resorts, which that's another thing. I mean, occasionally I see the AIs build those, but the AI doesn't build seaside resorts very often. Now it's seaside resorts and harbors, and obviously harbors are a district the AI is going to be building a lot on coastal cities. Obviously, they pretty much always build. They build a lot of harbors. And then 1,000 extra tourism for having a shipyard. Pretty late in the game, they're probably going to have a shipyard, so you're probably getting that 1,000. But I think between the both of these, they might now be better than album cover art. They might just be on par, but at least now you have more options. Now, whether or not they needed to give you more options for your rock bands, I don't know if I necessarily agree that they needed to be stronger, but, here we are. Alright, so this was something I was surprised to see in this patch, but now that I'm seeing it, it's a pretty cool thing that they added. So they basically just added one extra appropriate policy for the 3 late game governments that are slotted in. Game governments, I mean, I would use them for a little bit, but honestly, sometimes I stick in the 3rd tier governments longer, and then maybe right at the end swap into them. Particularly going for science, like swapping into synthetic technology only at the end when you need the extra power from your spaceports to get more of those ground laser projects done. Terrestrial lasers or whatever done. But again, I think previously people preferred to stay in the 3rd tier governments. It's just the raw, but they're covered up here. But the raw bonuses generally better. But at least now, a little bit more policy slots gives you a little bit more flexibility with the different governments, so that's nice. Similar here, synthetic technocracy has an extra economic one, and then the last one has an extra diplomacy one. I mean, I kind of maybe wish that they maybe mixed it up, like, there's already so many wildcard policy slots. I mean, I kind of wish they mixed it up, and the first one had, like, 2 military and add an economic, and then the second one had an extra to economic and diplomacy, and then the third, or I guess the second one would have military and diplomacy, and then the third one had economic and diplomacy, like maybe 2 and 2 instead of 1 and 3, but whatever. So now here, this was a shocking change, just because I was so hit by this because I honestly forgot that this policy existed. I mean, I don't know if anyone out there has used this policy. I don't know if I ever have. But now I probably will use this policy because now it gives 30% production towards harbor districts and the buildings in them. Before it just did the encampment thing, which was fine. I don't know. I never used it just because I don't tend to build a lot of encampments. I maybe build like 2. Even in a domination game, I would only build like 2 or 3, maybe more if I'm playing the Zulu because that's a unique district. But I don't tend to build a lot. You don't really need a lot. You only need like 2, 3 cities maybe. But with harbor, especially with how much better they made those buildings in the harbor district, this is definitely very worth it. I think it's even more worth it for building the districts outright, probably, because you're probably going to be building. This is a pretty early policy. I think you get it at, is it military tradition or after that? I think it's the one after that, the one that has the inspiration for boosting by building encampment. That's the other reason I never used this policy, is that the eureka for getting the policy was to build an encampment, but then I don't really want to build a second encampment with the policy card. So anyway, now this is a useful card. This will be really nice. Alright, so some more maps here. So this one looks like it's just for the memes, if I'm totally honest. In the I don't think it was the last update, but maybe the one before that, or maybe it was Gathering Storm itself, but they added, just kind of as a joke, they added that flat earther agenda, that didn't want people to go to space. And I don't know if you've ever seen the flat earth model, but this is kind of what it looks like. So I don't know if that was intentional or not. It looks like, it's interesting. It's basically just a normal continents map, but like flipped so that the North Pole is in the middle. So, or is that the South Pole? I don't really know. But yeah, cool new map type, I guess. I don't know if it's meant to be a meme or not, but I've kind of taken it as a meme. So another interesting one. I'm assuming what all this is just kind of like normal Fractal, but more individual islands. To be honest, I've never really been a fan of the Fractal map. I know people who are. I've heard a lot of people on the subreddit say that's their favorite map. I have some friends that say it's their favorite map, but neat, more maps. All right, so even more. This one might be I like the Terra one a lot too, but this might be one of the ones I'm most excited for with the Terra one. I think this is just an upgrade on continents, and they did the same thing in Civ 5. I believe they did like Continents Plus and Pangea Plus. Um, so this is just like, again, this will also be fun for like coastal civs. I mean, yeah, there's more land than like an islands map, but in Civ 6 you want a lot of land, and this will also give some islands that you can explore and find. I mean, the continents now, I don't know if I've ever found an island other than like a little tundra island maybe. So this will be fun. I specifically love that, of course, Coupe AI has planted on the tiny little pathetic island. Single player jersey system, just a little UI thing. I mean, I don't normally care. I don't care much about the updates that don't change the gameplay or the in-game UI, like quality of life in-game UI changes like they've made in the past. Um, but I've seen a lot of people complain that the jersey system wasn't in single player, so I'm glad that they're listening and that they added it. Little changes here. The menu changes, whatever. This is something personally I haven't used the world builder a lot, but I've seen a lot that this is a known bug that when you do floodplains in a world builder, it doesn't flood in game. So it looks like they fixed that. So that's again nice that they're listening and they managed to fix it. There it is in practice. And more, nice little things for the world builder. I haven't really played around with the world builder much myself. So that's it. So I just want to point out a few things that when I watched this morning, I noticed weren't mentioned. I mean, they said obviously they have more content they need to talk about. The first thing is the stuff I mentioned at the beginning, barbarian behavior. I know a lot. I personally think it was fine. I think I liked that they're aggressive, but a lot of people didn't like that. I know a lot of people were complaining as of the last patch that the barbarians were annoying. They were just spawning more than normal, which they definitely were spawning more than normal. I thought they were still manageable, but some people disagree. So I have a feeling that they're going to tweak that down a little bit, somewhere in between probably. Obviously, one of the big changes that everybody's always looking for is changes to the AI's behavior. Just in general, just AI improvements. The trading, particularly, the AI is terrible at trading, and just not great in general. So I'm sure they'll have some tweaks to that, like they normally do, but probably nothing huge. The AI is probably going to be pretty much the same. One of the big things that stood out to me in this video that they did not touch on at all is loyalty changes. So one of the biggest problems right now with the naval game is not, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, coastal cities being better, awesome, but I don't think the biggest problem with naval games is the coastal cities themselves. I think the problem is capturing other people's coastal cities in the loyalty system, because the loyalty system, unless you're timing it really well and capturing a bunch of cities at once, it's very, very difficult to hold on someone else's city. One of the things that makes England so frustrating, any of the Norway, any of the naval conquering civs, it's so frustrating because you can't hold on to those cities. And also, they weren't super helpful, but one of the tiny things that did help was actually the fact that some of those great admirals did give loyalty bonuses, so you could capture the city and put it in the harbor to hopefully hold on to it. But even those are gone, possibly. At least one of them's definitely gone or changed. That's something to watch out for, because I don't know if they don't change that, naval domination's really not going to improve that much. You're going to be able to build more boats, I guess, and whatever, but get some free boats or something from the admirals, but I don't really see it being more valuable if they don't change the loyalty system. So that's something to look out for. That I hope they touch on. Another big thing that they didn't mention at all are any changes to the diplomacy victory. I hate where the I don't totally hate it. I think the ideas are there. It just doesn't work right now. It takes too long. All the victory types should roughly take the same amount of time, or not so much that they should roughly take the same amount of time, but they should be equally feasible. For example, like a cultural victory is typically faster than a science victory, but a science victory is more reliable. So, they balance out in certain ways. And then a science victory gives you more options because if you're ahead in science, you're ahead in domination potentially. That's the only. I mean, religion obviously too tends to be behind, but diplomacy is the big one for me right now that feels like it's just not on par with the other victory types. So the big thing is just the fact that uh, losing three Diplo points resolution that spawns up in the is it the modern or the Renaissance, whatever, one of those world congresses, and then the AI, without a doubt, will always vote you down. So it just makes diplomacy frustrating and not fun. I think the other stuff is fun. I wish the first aid requests were more common. I don't know if it's a problem with the AI not proposing them or what, but or the game not letting the AI propose first aid requests, but I don't see them ever pop up in my games. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I never see first aid requests appear. And then the military requests they added too, I don't see those very often either. I don't know what it is, but I just don't see those. So I hope that would make diplomacy a little bit more fun if there was more of those. I like the other world games and World Fair and whatnot; those are fine, and I like the way the voting system works. I like the way diplomacy favor is gathered. I don't think you should be able to trade it because right now it's just an exploit to trade it to the AI. I don't really think that should be a thing. And yeah, so right now diplomacy victory just doesn't feel on par, and they haven't mentioned anything yet of tweaks to it. I'm guessing there probably will be tweaks to it. They just haven't touched on it yet. And then the other thing they didn't talk about is individual civ balances. Last two updates, they've made significant changes to some of the civs to balance them. I know I keep coming back to England, but again, England in particular has been changed in the last like 3 updates. And then Norway's been changed, Canada's been changed twice, Gandhi's been changed. So I feel like they'll probably put some more of those tweaks. Obviously, the big ones for me are Georgia, Norway, and Spain. I would love to see all of those be, a little bit better. Um, I think Georgia just needs some better faith generation ability and some way to make it easier for them to get a great profit. I think would be awesome. Spain needs something, man. Spain just not good. They're just too diverse. I think they have too many things to try and focus on, particularly in the early game. Norway definitely is more fun now. I was playing a Norway game last week, I think, and they're more fun, but they still don't feel as strong. I mean, with a lot of these naval changes, maybe they will be a lot stronger. But again, I think there needs to be something else that makes naval domination a little bit more viable. So anyway, that's it for me. Feel free to let me know what you think. Feel free to comment, whatever. I hate saying that YouTube stuff. I don't usually do it, but more importantly, I'd love to see people come over on Twitch at twitch.tv/elpezlaheavy715. I love, like just playing through the game and explaining it to just helping people out, especially people who are just not very familiar with Civ 6 or the series as a whole. So yeah, come check me out there. I hope you like the video, and goodbye.